Hey guys, somebody left me a comment a while back and I haven't gotten to it till now, about manifesting changes in your specific person when it's a relationship you're already in. So it's not like somebody that has said, I don't want to be with you, or doesn't know who the hell you are. It's a person you're actually in a relationship with and who isn't like trying to leave you, I guess, or who you're not trying to leave, but with whom you have an unsatisfying relationship. And I think that this ends up being a problem for nearly everyone, at least at some point in their lives. And if you listen to the prevailing wisdom on YouTube about this stuff, you will often it will often be suggested to you to imagine the other person being a different way and all that stuff. And Neville Goddard used as justification for focusing on the other person. One thing that I've noticed, I've been reading a lot of Neville lately, again, sort of like trying to look for the stuff that he says about people. And the thing that stands out to me about Neville with people is that when he's talking about your influence on other people, he is nearly always framing it as being like helping somebody else. Seeing a person who is in a bad way and imagining them being better. I have never once seen him talking about doing this to selfishly get something that you want from another person. I have never seen him talk about this in terms of trying to bring about feelings in someone that they don't have. Now, this gets into a gray area for me. When it comes to like, if you have a person in your life who just isn't what you want them to be, and they never have been, I don't know. This is really something that you're just going to have to decide if you want to try to do for yourself or not. If you're with a guy, for example, who is just not affectionate, or who is not verbally expressive, or who doesn't want to take ballroom dancing classes with you because they'd rather be out riding their motorcycle, I don't know if you can then get that out of that person, or if you should. I'm not God, and this is a moral gray area, in my opinion. I am telling you that I don't think Neville Goddard said, go ahead and do this, so you're just gonna have to think about it for yourself. Those are some just like, if you're in a relationship that was once great, and was once fulfilling, and the person that you were with was open-minded, and relationships have a tendency to do a turn at some point, because it seems to me, in my experience personally, and otherwise viewing other people, it seems that people are always putting their best foot forward in the beginning, overestimating what they are willing to do, or how they're going to be willing to act or be further down the line in a relationship. And then it ends up being that, these walls and boundaries just start falling into place at some point, and then everything changes, and then everybody kind of reverts back to whatever they were before they met this person and started attempting to become greater than they normally are in order to like get into this relationship. So I think you have to look at what's the best this relationship ever was. This is purely my opinion. This is not rooted in anything other than my opinion and my experience, having lived through this stuff from a manifesting perspective, for lack of a better way of putting it. I think you have to look at your relationship and say, was this ever really what I wanted? Was this person ever really what I wanted? Was I ever really happy? And if so, if not, you're gonna have to spend some time thinking about that. Are you willing to put time and energy and effort into attempting to change this person into something that they never even were to begin with, in order to hopefully get to a place where you're happy in a way that you never actually were? I don't know. Looking at this from a rational perspective, that doesn't seem like a wise use of energy or time to me. But that's between you and yourself. If you did have, if things have changed, this is really the meat of the video here, because this is who this is going to be useful for, I think. If you had a relationship that was good at one point, like things were the way you wanted, and you were happy and fulfilled and all that stuff, I think there is a very good chance that you can get back to that. And the only way I think that you're going to be able to do that is to look at yourself, take the focus off the other person and the things that they're doing that you don't like, or the things that they stopped doing that you did like, or whatever. And look at yourself and look at what's happened in the meantime. Look at how you changed. Look at how your thoughts changed. If you entered into the relationship coming from a very secure point of view, and then you turned into a very insecure person because because of something having to do with you, not something legit happening in the relationship. This is what drives me crazy. Like, if you get into a relationship with somebody you suspect after being together for a little while that they're a cheater or something like that, and that's not something that's like normally a problem for you, you're told to ignore it, told to ignore your thoughts about it. I think you have to keep your eyes open and not be a dipshit. Just in general, I just think that that's like, there's so much advice in this category, advising people to just like ignore their instincts and just sort of proceed in a way that to me is just dumb. And this, there's an art and a balance here to figuring out what's what. And nobody can do that for you. Sorry, like that's something that you're gonna have to figure out for yourself. But most of this is stuff you're gonna have to figure out for yourself. But so if you look back at your relationship when it changed, when it started to change, what were the changes in you that happened? So I'll share like personally. My fiance and I met right before a whole shitstorm in my life happened. Like he had just moved in with me 2 weeks before all hell broke loose for like, I don't know, six or 9 months, something like that. Things finally just kind of started getting calm like last September. And even since last September, it's been like one thing after another, just small things. Like we get COVID, his mom decided she's going to move. So now we got to go like do all this stuff at her house and just other stuff. And then we moved into a house and, we bought a house. It's just been crazy. There's just not been a dull moment. But, I had a lot of personal stuff. Like my dad got sick and died. I gained some weight back, which was part of a larger manifestation. Thanks self, but I'm glad. I gained some weight back. I have to do some mental stuff with that in order to be free of the whole judgment on myself about weight. So, that came up and has to be dealt with and everything. And these things have produced changes in me because I'm still trying to work out all of my mental stuff around weight. So I wouldn't say I'm a very different person between say 120 and 150. I'm not I'm mostly the same, but there are subtle enough changes about how I feel about myself that they clearly affect my relationship. Like when you feel good about yourself in the beginning of a relationship and then you start feeling like shit about yourself, the idea that does not impact your relationship is just pure delusion. It does. And so if you have something like that, that happened in your relationship, or your partner does, or, something like that, you might not be able to say, I understand how this thing created this thing, but you can look at the timing and say, well, there's a correlation there. Do I know for sure that it was this thing that happened with me, or these thoughts changing in my head? No. But let's just take the focus off the partner that isn't doing what I want, or the thing in the relationship that isn't right. Just set it aside, which is so difficult to do, but it's what needs to be done. Set aside the focus that's on the relationship and turn it back to you and just keep it there. Because even if your partner has things that are going on in their life, like I can look at Matt and say, oh yeah, and he had this thing happen and he had this thing happen. It's weird how outside events also seem to come in that are unrelated, that help create the change that makes sense in terms of reflecting the changes in you. The intricacy of the orchestration of all of this is just incomprehensible. I don't even try to think about it anymore. I just rely on it because I know it will work. You know what I mean? If something has to happen to shift the relationship into balance, and it's not going to happen just interpersonally, some freaking thing from outside will happen to shift it. You can count on this. You could take this to the bank. So anyway, the only place to put the focus is on you, and you will find, I think, if you can just have the faith about it and just believe. If you return to the state that you were in when things were good, things will change. your partner will suddenly feel a fire lit to do some changing themselves. Is this always the case? No. It's not always the case that your relationship will become what you want. However, it is always the case that when you change, they change. And you have to cross that bridge when you come to it. But if you have had a shift in yourself and you're bringing a different energy to the relationship, even if it doesn't seem like the different energy should be the thing that is causing what you perceive to be the problem, assume it's you, because you are the only thing you have control over. You can try to spend your time focusing on the other person and imagining them being different, and it's possible that if you constantly are imagining your partner being affectionate to you, that will then change you to bring that out of them. But beyond that, I don't have any reason to think that we control other people. I don't really think that there's anybody out there saying that, and there's some muddy Neville Goddard language that people have taken to mean that. As far as I can tell, that's the only place people are getting this from, is some stuff in Neville Goddard where he talks about, people not being able to reject your intentions for them, the states that you transmit to them, that they can't reject those unless it's something that just isn't something that would be allowed in their sphere ever. So like, for example, I've said this on this channel before, nobody could ever make me be a cheater by thinking I would be a cheater. What would probably happen is if I had a boyfriend who constantly was thinking I was cheating, he would be unattractive to me. Something about that would come out. It would be creepy. I wouldn't like it. And I would take off. The relationship would have to end, because, you can't make somebody be something that they are simply not and don't want to be. They have to agree. This is what Neville Goddard says. They basically have to agree with what you're trying to awaken in them. So you can do bad things to people who are in a bad state, by that logic. But, I don't know. When it comes to people and what's possible, I don't know. But I think the rule of thumb is you just don't worry about that. Like, you let that go, you focus on yourself, and it brings about everything, all the change that you want. Maybe not in the exact way that you want from this particular perspective, but the changed version of you will be okay. The changed version of you will have what's appropriate for that version. Whether it's a change in your partner or not. And I think this is the kind of stuff that you have to experience for yourself. Somebody else can't teach it to you. Somebody else can't explain it to you fully. The things that you learn from experience, there's no comparison. I would rather have somebody, I'd rather have somebody who's 70, who doesn't seem very smart. I'd rather have a person who's 70 helping to advise me than the smartest 20-year-old on the planet. Because that is how valuable experience is. That is how valuable just living is, and how much wisdom that gives you. So I think you just have to go through these things and see for yourself how they end up. But in my experience, focusing on somebody else instead of yourself, focusing on someone else's behavior, it's so difficult to do that in a way that does not end up producing more of the behavior, or producing more of the stuff in you that's causing the problem. It doesn't, in practice, I don't think it works very well for the vast majority of people. I think for most people, the right advice, and what Neville Goddard says, is there's no one to change but self. Change yourself and you will get a different version of the person that you're with. And this is so much harder to do than just to say it. When something in your immediate environment that is happening every day, is the thing that you have to ignore. I mean, this is graduate level work. The stuff with people is graduate level stuff. It's, I think, the real challenge of this whole thing is other people and figuring all that out. So my advice is just kind of let them all go and just focus on you and let them be who they're going to be in relation to you, and just have faith that the whole thing works the way that it's supposed to. That you will be, you'll get the things that are a match for you. The world will reflect you without fail. So that's about all I have to say about that. I don't think this is a hopeless thing by any stretch. I've watched it, you know, and I've watched it change and come back in my own relationship. So it's not like, oh, everything's changed for the worse forever. You know, it's just sort of a balancing. It's just an equation that always has to make a whole. So if you change this thing, this person's going to change this thing. It's not always necessarily a direct parallel. You know, everyone as you pushed out doesn't necessarily mean, you know, I experience A, so this person's going to reflect A. It's very weird how some of this stuff, it's very weird what's causing some of the things in your outer reality. You know, I sit in the same place taping these videos every day, and there's a stop sign right here. And while I'm taping these videos, I swear to God, every day, at least 10 people blow this stop sign. I think I'm gonna have to call the town, tell them about it. Have a great day.